Good morning. How you doing this morning? My name is Dallas Johnson, and I'm the lead instructor of the Automobile Dealer Training Association. And I really appreciate you spending some time with me this morning, or maybe you're watching the rebroadcast later on. We are an approved training provider for the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. So the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles regulates dealer licensing in the state of Texas, and we are an approved pre-license and renewal training provider. So the state of Texas does require that you take a 6-hour online training course in order to get your dealer's license. And if you are currently licensed, you might have had to take a one-time renewal course, but now I think most dealers have actually taken that class. So mainly what we're doing now is doing the pre-license course. So I want to talk about that and hopefully answer your questions for you. And if you're watching the rebroadcast of this, I certainly will do my best to answer your questions after we finish our live scenario this morning. So, first of all, maybe like me, maybe you've debated or maybe you've got questions on how to get your license. I debated years and years on whether or not to get my license. And once I've got my license, I really wish that I would have gotten it like 10 years earlier. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background on me, I was a firefighter for 20 years. And like I said, I started my dealership a little later in life. I wish if I would have known the money that was in having a dealer's license, I probably would have gotten one license right out of high school. But I was a firefighter, and I started a dealership on my days off. And I started very small because I'm a motorcycle enthusiast, and I was buying and selling motorcycles. And I realized that, I had the ability, started doing a little bit of research, and I realized that I had the ability to get a dealer's license because it's really much easier to get a dealer's license than you would actually ever imagine. So I ended up getting my dealer's license. And shortly thereafter, I ended up, after a couple of years of running a small dealership, I decided I wanted to expand. And I also realized that the money that I was making as a dealer greatly outweighed the money that I was making as a firefighter. Although I loved being a firefighter, there was a day that I had to make a decision, and I did to make a decision to take an early retirement on the fire department. And from there on out, I became a dealer, and I've now expanded that into not only holding a dealer's license, but showing you how to get your dealer's license. So, this industry has been really good for me. And, I've been very, very involved in this industry for many, many years now. And not only having a dealer's license, but also training motor vehicle dealers as well. And, I have helped folks like you, rise up and achieve financial freedom. Maybe you're already financially successful, and that's great. Maybe I can help you go to a new level. But, I've really helped some folks from the worst neighborhoods in the country rise up and achieve financial freedom with a dealer's license. Because with the dealer's license, not only are you going to be able to access every single dealer auction in Texas, you can access every dealer auction in the United States. There's a couple of dealer auctions down in Mexico. You can go up into the great Northland of Canada and use your Texas dealer's license again at those dealer auctions as well. And so, not only are you going to be able to physically go into these dealer auctions, because once you have what's called your auction access ID card, then you're going to be able to basically, it looks like a little driver's license, and that's going to walk you into every single dealer auction in North America, basically. But now, obviously, things have changed. And even before the pandemic, dealers were bidding online. Now it's exploded, and you're going to be able to really buy all these vehicles online. And a lot of times you'll be able to read third-party inspection reports where you can look right on a dealer auction, and there will be third parties that will come in and inspect that vehicle. So you don't have the bias of a dealer auction telling you that, hey, this vehicle's great or whatever. You'll be able to read third-party reports that will actually let you know the exact mechanics of that vehicle. They'll run the vehicle diagnostic scanners through that vehicle, and it'll tell you if there's any issues, and they'll give you a ranking. And, in the past, I always felt like a tire kicker, like I really wanted to get at a dealer auction and kick the tires in person. Well, I've now found that it can be extremely time consuming, especially if you live any distance from a dealer auction. So now, when you get your Texas dealer's license, you can get your license and you can jump onto all these different dealer auction websites, such as Manheim. Manheim is the largest dealer auction company in the world. And you can go to manheim.com and you'll be able to easily bid and track vehicles. And they have what's called OVE, which shows you other vehicles that are at other dealer auctions. At other dealer lots. So what you can do with this program, well, it's not a program. It's basically a secure website that you can log into once you've gotten your dealer's license. You can bring up, say, for example, you've got a customer that says, hey, listen, I'm looking for a 2018 Toyota Camry SE. I want a white one with less than 20,000 miles on it. Well, you can get on OVE, crunch that in, and you can find a dealer that has that. And it'll show what the dealer wants you to pay for that vehicle. And you can show this other screen to the customer that doesn't show that price. So you can show them all the pictures that other dealer has taken of that vehicle, and they won't see that price. So you can know in your head what it's going to cost you to get that delivered to your dealership, and then you can tack your commission right on there. And if your customer says yes, you can tack on a $2,000 or $3,000 profit on that or whatever. So hopefully that'll get you started. ADESA is another great auction. And you know what I've seen also as well? A lot of great small auctions. I call them small auctions because they're usually owned by one or two persons. I call them small, but you might have a small auction that could have 10, 15 lanes, and they'll definitely give you some personalized service as well. Just like Manheim, ADESA, CarMax has their own dealer auctions now, and you'll be able to access these not only in person, but you're going to be able to probably come to the point where you're going to be bidding on vehicles online or using services like OVE, where you can just show your customer, hey, listen, this vehicle you want right now, it's in Nashville, and I can have it in Austin here in about 3 days. And if the customer says, yeah, I love it, you can go ahead and buy that. Now, I do want you to be aware there is a slight element of risk to that, because you could go to the trouble of buying that vehicle and getting it shipped to your dealership, and all of a sudden the customer shows up and says, well, look at this ding here. I don't know, it smells weird. So I think there's always a chance of that. So the way I look at it is, if you are going to buy a vehicle that your customer says they want for sure, number one, I'm going to ask for a non-refundable deposit. And if that's not the case, just make sure that this is a vehicle that you think that you could resell. Don't take this risk because you're going to find out, customers are a little wishy-washy sometimes. And, with that being said, there's a chance that they might tell you, hey, I want this car. I love this car. Buy that car in Nashville, have it here to me tomorrow, and I'll bring the cash on Tuesday. And then all of a sudden they walk in and they're like, I changed my mind. I found something here local. I mean, this could very much happen. So no matter what vehicle you buy online, I'm always going to recommend that you only buy a vehicle that you're fairly certain that you're going to be able to resell. And by the way, hey, if you can leave a comment below, see how I don't know why it is when I'm live streaming, I can't ever zoom in. So you kind of see a little bit more of my background. Here's my microphone right here that you can see in my background. So anyway, I want to talk about how to get your dealer's license in the state of Texas today. And, Texas is, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit partial here, but it just seems like Texas is one of the, in my opinion, easiest states in the United States to get a dealer's license in. You got to jump through a couple of hoops and hurdles. But not as many other states because of the business-friendly mentality of the state. But also at the same time, I want you to be aware, the state has zero tolerance for any type of unethical sales activity. And we had an incredible amount of fraud that happened in the state with temporary tags. You probably read this in your paper, where we had illegal business operations that were getting Texas temporary tags. They were basically getting dealer's licenses and using Texas temporary tags and putting them on vehicles all over the United States and committing crimes that weren't traceable and things like that. So, the Department of Motor Vehicles has really stepped up enforcement. So one of my goals, if you do decide to take your training course, is going to show you not only how to get your dealer's license, but to maintain what we call compliance. And compliance means you take the steps that I'm going to show you to maintain compliance. And that means following 100% of all the rules and guidelines. Okay. And you're going to find out that, the Department of Motor Vehicles really has zero tolerance for any dealer that does not maintain 100% compliance. So my goal is to show you how to maintain 100% compliance. And when you maintain 100% compliance, like what I'm going to show you in the dealer training course, you're going to find out that your profits are going to be much higher by taking the additional steps that I'm going to show you. Number one, once you get your dealer's license, you're going to get into this incredible business, and you're going to be able to get vehicles at every dealer auction in North America and have them shipped to your dealership. Or you can do wholesale. We'll talk about that here in just a moment as well. But, if you maintain this compliance, your profits are absolutely unlimited. If you want to sell a few vehicles a year, that's great. I know dealers that have sold over 10,000 vehicles in a year. I know a dealer in, it's whatever you want to do. I know a dealer in Dallas that started a buy here, pay here dealership 3 years ago, and he's got over 5,800 accounts, which means he's got 1,800 customers. Most of them, I'm assuming, are making their payments every month. And I was doing a little bit of math on that. And you're looking at, that $500,000 a month that dealer in Dallas is bringing in with a business that he just started 3 years ago. So this business is really what you want to do with it. If you want to sell a few vehicles a year, you can certainly do that. If you want to sell a few thousand vehicles a year, you can certainly do that as well. So, hey, I see some of you there. Go ahead and chat me some questions. I'll do my very best to answer those questions for you. But before we start, I do want you to be aware the state of Texas did pass a law a couple years ago. You are required to take training now. So, in the past, I think running a dealership in Texas was like the wild, wild west. It was just kind of pretty much a free for all. And, I know dealers basically learned the business with the fines that they got from the state. And so instead of sending out those fines, the state of Texas did what just about every other state has done and does require you to take a training course before you're able to obtain your Texas dealer's license. So it's kind of like if you want to get a real estate license, that can be very profitable. So the state requires you take training before you can get a real estate license. You want to get an insurance license, that can be very profitable as well. And the state does require that you take training before you can get an insurance license. And by the way, on a side note, I've had a real estate license, I've had an insurance license, I've had a dealer's license, and I made a lot more money with my dealer's license than I ever did in insurance and real estate combined. Now, insurance is great for residuals. And, with me, if you want to look at the numbers between a real estate license and a dealer's license, there's really no comparison. And when I was selling real estate, I'd get a contract on a house and I hope it would close. It would take 45 to 60 days to close if it closed, but 45 to 60 days is a lot of time to have things go wrong. And I had a lot of, I had money that I thought was going to be coming in on a closing, and all of a sudden sellers backed out or buyers backed out. So, and also, so I'm going to do a video one of these days on the comparison between what you can do when you sell $100,000 in vehicles, what you make versus $100,000 in real estate, vehicles versus real estate. I think you're going to make a lot more with a dealer's license. So I want to talk about here real quick, kind of give you an overview of what you're going to have to do to get your dealer's license, because it is fairly, there's a step-by-step process that you can achieve very easily to get your own dealer's license. Okay. So, and by the way, we are an approved training provider by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. And we've been training for quite some time now. But with that being said, let me kind of run through here. I want to show you a couple of things here first. If you decide to get your dealer's license, which I hope you do, you will have to take that 6-hour dealer training course. But I want to show you right here. Here's some great contact information. This is the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, since, dealer licensing falls under motor vehicles, we are regulated by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, and they have what's called the dealer licensing section. And let me give you that phone number. This is basically their customer support line in Austin, and that's 888-368-4689, like you see on the screen there, 888-368-4689. And, you can certainly drop an email as well, askdmv@txdmv.gov, as you can see right there. And, I certainly do hope that you will consider, choosing us as your dealer license training provider. I've been doing this for a long time, and please read the reviews at texasdealers.com on our website, texasdealers.com. Just spell out Texas Dealers with the S on the end, texasdealers.com. And you can certainly read the reviews from other persons just like you that have thought about taking the class and then taking the class. And I think you'll find that none of them had any regrets. And here's some other specific phone numbers for your new business. These are DMV phone numbers. So there's dealer licensing 5. That's that same number I gave you a moment ago. E-tag. We're going to talk about E-tag extensively, where you'll be able to issue those tags on vehicles sold by your dealership. And there's a fax line. Do you have a fax machine? I don't know if you do or not. I don't know many people that have a fax machine anymore. But there's still a fax machine. If you do want to fax in some documentation to Austin, 512-465-4190. Now, salvage information. If you got other information, they've got a specific phone number, 512-465-3000. So they have some licensing information there for you as well. And then as we're going to train in your dealer training course, I'm going to show you web dealer, and you're going to apply at e-licensing, and we will certainly talk about that as well. So real quick here, I want to show you the types of different licenses. Okay, there are several different types of dealer licenses. Some may be good for you, some may not be good for you. So you definitely want to, as you start this journey on obtaining your dealer's license in the state of Texas, you definitely want to make sure that you are choosing the right license. So I'm also going to I'm going to talk about the different types of dealer licenses, and then we're going to talk about how to get your dealer's license. And I'm going to show you real quickly, basically how to apply via e-licensing. Okay, there are several different types of licenses that are granted by the state of Texas. And I'm going to go in depth on these. I believe only one or maybe two of these will affect you. Okay. So we've got a retail general distinguishing number. We'll talk about that. Wholesale, franchise, converter, salvage, manufacturer, distributor, in transit, vehicle lessor, and a lease facilitator. But I want you to be aware, licenses, retail GDN licenses, they're called a general distinguishing number. I don't know why the state calls them that, but that's what they're called. That's their official title, is a general distinguishing number. And they're broken down into 5 different categories. So, if you want to sell vehicles from multiple categories, you're going to have a license for each category. Okay, I want to repeat that. If you want to sell vehicles from multiple categories, you're going to need to have a license for each one of these categories. So if you want to sell motor vehicles and trailers, then you're going to need a motor vehicle license and a trailer license, which is very easy to do once you log on to the e-licensing system, which I'm going to show you here in just a few moments. So the 5 categories are going to be motor vehicle, motorcycle, travel trailer, trailer, semi-trailer, and then what we call an independent mobility motor vehicle dealer. And always remember, retail dealers can sell retail to a customer on the lot, and wholesale dealers can only sell to other dealers or at a dealer auction. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. You do not have to have a lot in order to have a dealer's license. If you want to go wholesale, you can certainly do that. There's a little bit of limitations with that as far as who you can sell to, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I'm always a big believer that if you really want to go full force in this industry, then you should start out with a retail license. It just does give you a lot more opportunity, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But first of all, let's talk about the regular dealer license. We call it a motor vehicle GDN, which is a general distinguishing number. This is the dealer license that I believe most of you are going to be interested in. So this is going to allow you to buy, sell, or exchange trucks, motorhomes, used cars, electric vehicles. You're going to be able to buy, sell, and repair salvage vehicles as well, because now the new law allows retail dealers to act as a salvage dealer as well. So this is going to allow you to use temporary tags, dealer license plates. You will get metal dealer license plates, but you're only going to be able to place your tags on the vehicles that fall under this category. And this is going to require that you provide a dealer surety bond, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So I do believe this is going to be the majority of you that are watching this live stream, or maybe you're watching the replay later on. Maybe you're going to delve into motorcycles. And this is how I got into the industry, was with motorcycles. I was buying and selling motorcycles all the time. I'm an enthusiast and I love motorcycles. That's a whole side video there, but I'm very much a lover of being on 2 wheels. And a motorcycle GDN is going to allow you to buy, sell, or exchange used motorcycles, mopeds, and off-highway vehicles. And this is going to include ATVs, UTVs, or those auto cycles that you see, slingshots, things like that. So keep this in mind. You're going to be able to use dealer temporary tags, and I want you to be aware, if you only have a motorcycle dealer license, you can only place your dealer's temporary tags, buyer tags, and metal dealer license plates only on motorcycles, okay? So each specific license allows you to only place the dealer tags and dealer plates on a specific vehicle, and this is going to require that bond, which I'll talk about here in just a moment. A travel trailer dealer is going to allow you to buy, sell, or exchange used travel trailers. And by the way, just to kind of give you the definition here, a travel trailer is defined as a house trailer type vehicle or a camper trailer that is a recreational vehicle, or that is less than 8 feet 6 inches wide, or 45 feet in length, and is designed primarily for use as temporary living quarters. So this is what we're going to be using: RVs, camping, travels, things like that. Okay. So it's seasonal use, and it's not a permanent dwelling. Okay. And also, it is not a utility trailer or enclosed trailer or other trailer that does not have basically human habitation as its primary function. Okay. This is going to be for that small little pull behind RV or camper, pop-up campers, things like that. And this particular license does not require a dealer surety bond. So it definitely gets you into this industry a little bit cheaper without having to pay additional fees as well. The next one I'll discuss with you real quick here is going to be a trailer, semi-trailer dealer's license. Okay, now this is a little bit different. This will allow you to buy, sell, or exchange new or used utility or semi-trailers. Okay, so you can sell those small utility trailers or large semi-trailers. And this is one of the used categories that actually allows you to sell new vehicles. So if you're looking just to sell maybe brand new semi trucks or brand new utility trailers, you'll be able to do that with a trailer, semi-trailer general distinguishing number dealer's license. Okay, this as well does not require a dealer surety bond. And this is one of the only GDN license categories that does allow you to sell a brand new vehicle without a separate franchise license, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So if you're just going to be selling utility trailers or maybe semi-truck trailers, you're going to be able to get a trailer, semi-trailer GDN as well. Now, there's one that's a little bit different here. It's an independent mobility motor vehicle dealer license. And this is for vehicles that have been converted into specific mobility vehicles. The thing about this, you have to have an agreement with the licensed franchise dealer of the underlying chassis of that mobility vehicle. And it's basically a mobility vehicle is designed to transport a person with a disability. And this also requires that you have a converter's license. Okay, so do please keep that in mind. And I want you to be aware that all independent motor vehicle GDN dealer licenses, like we talked about there, may operate, with the exception of wholesale or independent motor vehicle dealer. Mobility vehicle may operate as a salvage dealer as well without a separate license, as long as it's the same location. So once again, if you're a wholesaler or an independent mobility motor vehicle dealer, you cannot do this, but all the other categories will allow you to become a salvage dealer. That law changed a couple of years ago because they used to have two different totally different processes there. So do please keep that in mind. Now, if that's the case, you will have to get a sales tax and use permit and get a National Motor Vehicle Title Information System number as well. Now, let's talk about this one, because I get a lot of calls on how to get a dealer's license without a lot. Well, you can do it with a wholesale dealer license. Okay, so a wholesale license is going to allow you to enter dealer auctions, but you can only sell to other licensed motor vehicle dealers. You cannot sell a vehicle to a person without a dealer's license, such as a retail customer on your display area. And if you ever do, not that you're going to do this, the state will definitely find out about it as soon as that person tries to license that vehicle. Okay, so you may never sell a vehicle to the general public with a wholesale license. A wholesale license only allows you to buy, sell vehicles at wholesale. Okay, so do please keep that in mind. Now, this is going to basically still require that you have some type of office location. Okay, so there are companies that specialize in helping you get a wholesale license. But with that being said, you can never have a wholesale dealer sharing a business location with a retail dealer. So retail dealers and wholesale dealers cannot share the same building. So that's written into state law. That's something you certainly want to be aware of. Okay. And there's also a wholesale motor vehicle auction license, which is not probably going to apply to you. I have often gotten calls, how do I get an auction license? Well, you probably don't want an auction license. An auction license is when you are opening this great big massive auction. Okay, so and you're going to be selling vehicles at a big, large auction with several lanes. That takes an auction license. But to get into auctions, you have to have a dealer's license, whether it's wholesale or retail. And I always want you to be aware. I'm a big believer that maybe you want to start with a wholesale license. Wholesaling is not what it used to be, and one of the reasons for this, wholesale dealers used to develop relationship with one or two franchisees, and they would offer to buy all their used vehicles. Well, the franchisees, they're hanging on to those a lot more now than they were even a few years ago, because they're trying to sell them on their own lot. Where in the past, a vehicle that was like 10 years old or something like that, a franchisee probably didn't want it on their lot. Well, now they've got, they might have a certain side of the lot where they're running these. Because of this vehicle inventory shortage that we've seen here in the last couple of years, wholesaling is not what it used to be. And something else I want you to be aware of. If you're a wholesale license, you can only sell to other dealers, and there's only a certain amount of other dealers. But when you have that retail lot, you can sell to anybody that can legally purchase a vehicle. So your market basically opens up to every single person above the age of 16. So, the market is much larger. And with the pandemic, and things have really changed with this industry a couple of years ago. Wholesalers, if you're a wholesaler and you're making some great money and you're watching this video, congratulations. I'm very, very happy for you. But the majority of wholesalers are not making an exorbitant amount of money, but a majority of retailers are. And in my opinion, there's always going to be a lot more money in retail than there is in wholesale. There are a few wholesalers out there that are making incredible amounts of money, but that's not the norm. The norm is the person that goes ahead and gets the license, and finding a lot with 5 spaces. If you can do this, which I'm sure you'll be able to, then you will be able to get a retail license. And with that being said, if you're not sure where to start, there's a couple of things I'm going to recommend to you. You can always go to LoopNet, Craigslist. You can hook up with a realtor and tell them, hey, listen, I need a commercial area that has parking for at least 5 spaces. But my best recommendation to you to go out and find a lot is to burn a few tanks of gas in your car, get out and drive, make some rounds, go to areas that you don't normally frequent. And, there's a lot out there. It's just waiting for you, but you always want to make sure that it meets local zoning. And, so how do you find this out? Whatever city or county you're in, if you're in a city, you can call your city hall, ask for your city hall's planning and zoning department, or if you're in a rural area, call your county courthouse, because the state of Texas is very clear. You are required to meet local zoning. So you have to meet local zoning no matter what, no matter where your dealership is going to be located. And just ask them, hey, can I have a dealer's license at this location? They'll either tell you yes or no. So the Department of Motor Vehicles is very, very clear on this. You have to meet all local zoning laws. So, I would never hesitate. If I was going out to find a place to, you might have to spend $600-700, maybe $1,000 a month. If you're not making that back with one sale, you're not marketing your vehicles up high enough. This is a very, very high profit industry, and I think you're going to do very well at it. So I'm going to show you how to get that license here in a second. Let's cover a couple of these categories here. Franchise dealer license. If you are going to be selling brand new vehicles, you're going to have to get a franchise license. So if you're opening a Toyota dealership or a Kia dealership or selling brand new Honda motorcycles, you'd have to do that. A converter license is required when you're installing special equipment to, it's basically been modified by a person. And it's a person who basically fixes a body or special equipment to a chassis. So that's something you certainly want to be aware of. Salvage license is a separate license for some folks, but if you've got a retail license, you can operate as a salvage dealer now. So that's not as separate as it was in the past, but there still are folks that want to just have a salvage license alone. There is a separate license for that. Manufacturer license. If you're making vehicles, you have to have a manufacturer license. You can only sell to franchisees, so that's something you want to be aware of. There are distributor licenses, and this is basically somebody that acts as an intermediary between a vehicle manufacturer and a franchise motor vehicle dealer. Here's an in-transit license, which allows a drive-away operator to transport and deliver a vehicle in Texas from the manufacturer or another point of origin to the franchisee as well. If you're going to be leasing vehicles, then you're going to need a vehicle lessor license, okay, if you're going to be leasing vehicles for more than 180 days. And they've also got kind of a not so common license called a lease facilitator license. And that's if you want to act basically as an intermediary between a leaser and leasee, okay, if that makes any sense to you. So, but let me cover these quick steps here. I want to show you real quick here exactly how to get your license, because it's probably a lot easier than what you've ever realized, but you have to complete a few steps before you apply. Once again, my name is Dallas Johnson, and I am the lead instructor of the Automobile Dealer Training Association, and we specialize in getting you your Texas dealer's license, okay? And we do the 6-hour training course. So let me cover these steps here real quick. There might seem like a lot of steps here, but there's really not. I mean, once you've completed these steps, a couple of these take a few moments online. A couple of them are a little bit more extensive, okay? So we're going to submit the application. I'll talk about criminal history, business building, and if you're going to be a retail dealer, you got to have a display area. You will need a business sign and a bond, which we'll talk about here in a moment. You're going to probably need to register your name with the Secretary of State. If you're going to be offering financing, then you're going to have to get a license with the OCCC. You're going to maintain records. I'm going to show you a document that you will need to fill out. It's called your I-9 Employment Eligibility Form. And most dealers need to get an employer identification number. And I'll show you how to do that for free. There are companies out there that will charge you $600 for that or more. So don't pay that. We're going to show you how to do that in your dealer training course. And there it is, number 13, dealer education course. And then you do need to pay for your license itself. And I'll talk about that here in just a few moments. Okay. Now, just to let you know, we worked one-on-one with the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles for over 2 years. So this is the course the Department of Motor Vehicles wants you to take. Okay, I want you to be aware of that. So it did take us when we submitted the proposal in Austin, I personally visited with TXDMV staff with a really great staff. And we spent 2 years on this. So this is a very extensive course that you're getting ready to take here. But once you've taken your dealer training course, you are going to be prepared not only to submit your application, but you're also going to be ready to run your new business. I'm going to show you in depth how to do this. So, as I said, you're going to have to submit a dealer application. And in your online training, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, because the Department of Motor Vehicles no longer accepts mailed-in applications. They've obviously streamlined things. If you have any questions, you can always call that customer support division in Austin. It's 888-368-4689. And that's Texas Department of Motor Vehicles Consumer Relations Division. And they'll be able to explain some other mechanics if I can't do that for you as well. And here's your e-licensing login here that you're going to see. And I'm going to show you this extensively in your course as well. That application process is quite extensive and must be completed correctly and it's in its entirety. Mistakes on your license can certainly cause significant delays in your licensing process. So we'll submit a dealer license application online in your dealer training course. You're going to need to have your criminal history reviewed. And I want you to be very aware. Right now, basically when you're doing a license application online, they're going to basically ask you a few questions. There's a rule that I believe is going to be implemented here because we've had so much illegal activity, especially involving temporary permits here in the last couple of years. They have a rule right now. They may require you to get fingerprinted. As of right now, that rule hasn't been approved. But when you're watching this video later on, that could be part of the process. So you might have to go get fingerprints later on, just to basically show the state you didn't just get out of prison for robbing a bank or something like that. Okay, the Department of Motor Vehicles really requires us to be of a higher level of ethical standards than the average person walking down the street, because they don't ever want to give a dealer's license to somebody that stole a car or managed some auto theft ring or something like that. They don't want to accidentally give a dealer's license to, somebody that was rolling back odometers and things like that. So right now, if you're going to have to submit any court records with your application, I'll talk about that in your dealer training course as well. Now, no matter what, you've got to have a place of business to be used for the purpose of selling motor vehicles. And it's got to be located in some type of building. Okay, you can't just have a permanent tent or something like that. Now, your building's got to meet all local zoning requirements. And here's a little catch that I want you to be aware of. You either need to own the building, or if it's leased, then you have to have a lease for at least 2 years. So they want to know exactly where you're going to be. It can't be in an apartment or a motel or something like that. And by the way, I've often been asked this question: can I have a dealer's license at my home? They do allow this, but it's pretty rare, because if you've got a license, your office has to be in a private, completely separate building from the actual residence. Okay. And you've also got to meet all local zoning requirements from your city or your county. So if you're in a metro area, more than likely, no zoning law is going to allow you to actually have a dealership at your home. Okay, they're not going to want that traffic. Now, if you're in a mixed use zoning or something like that, that could be possible. And the city of Houston amazingly does not have zoning laws, so you have to meet local zoning. But it's really interesting. The city of Houston, I think, is the largest metro in the entire United States that doesn't have zoning laws. So, but you have to, no matter what, you've got to meet any zoning requirements. So before you rent or purchase a building to operate your dealership, it's imperative that you contact your local planning and zoning office to ensure that you can have a dealership at that location. Because I know scenarios where dealers have literally purchased real estate to have a dealer's license, only to find out that they were not legally able to operate a dealership at that building. So you certainly want to be aware of that. Okay. And the Department of Motor Vehicles, they may request documentation to ensure that you have met those requirements. A couple of other things: you are going to have an office area with at least a desk, 2 chairs, and internet access, and a working telephone listed in your dealership name. Now, I want to repeat that important statement. Your office has to have, at minimum, a desk, 2 chairs, internet access, and a working telephone that is listed in your dealership name. And your dealer phone can never be shared with another dealer. And, the internet access that you're using is allowed to be wireless, so they want you to be aware of that as well. So, hey, with that being said, let's talk about your display area. If you are going to be a retail dealer, like I said, I always recommend going for it and getting your retail license. But if you want to start with a wholesale, I understand, that's going to get you into the dealer auctions. That's a great way to get started. But the majority of wholesale dealers I know end up getting retail later on. So that's something you certainly want to be aware of. Now, your display lot, when you do have a retail license, you do have to have a display lot that has sufficient size to display at least 5 vehicles of the type that your dealer license is issued. So let's talk about this. It has to be big enough for the type of vehicles for your dealer license. If you have a motor vehicle license, then you're going to have space for at least 5 cars or trucks. Okay, if you're just getting a motorcycle license, you have to have 5 spaces for at least 5 motorcycles. So you have to have a sufficient size to display at least 5 vehicles of the type that you're going to be selling. Okay, now they want to make sure that your lot is never intermingled with another business or public parking. So they don't want it like a neighboring business's customers to accidentally park on your lot, and then someone thinks that vehicle's for sale. That's confusion. The state wants to make sure that you avoid. So make sure that your vehicles are separated from any other neighboring businesses' customer parking, and your display lot may not be a driveway, and it's going to have to be hard surface. So the state law is very clear on that. You've got to have some type of hard surface, okay? And always make sure that all your sales activity is taking place at your licensed location. I want you to be aware, we are that dealer training provider, texasdealers.com, texasdealers.com. My name is Dallas Johnson. I'll be able to give that training course for you. So if you haven't taken an online training course before, it's just like watching any YouTube video. You just have to watch all 6 hours, and you can stop that training course at your convenience. So do please be aware of that. If you want to watch all 6 hours today, you can. If you want to basically watch an hour now, a couple hours next week, 3 hours after that, you can do that. The state's very clear. The certificate that you receive when you complete your 6-hour training course, it never expires. And that's a great thing about the state's dealer training law. Once you take that course, hang on that certificate. You don't want to lose that thing, because whether you wanted to apply for your license next week, next month, 5 years from now, you'll be able to do that with the certificate of completion, because we are an approved training provider by the Department of Motor Vehicles. And if you're looking for that, go to texasdealers.com, click on that blue enroll button. It's only $149. And to me, that's $149 that could certainly change your life. Okay, so I want you to be very, very aware of that. You're going to need a business sign. Any digital printing company or sign shop is going to be able to get this produced for you. Okay, the DMV wants to make sure that your building is identified as a Texas Motor Vehicle dealership. So the name on the sign, your dealership name needs to be at least 6 inches high or larger. And that's going to be the same name that you have on your dealer license application, or if you have registered with the Secretary of State, that's going to be the same name. So you can't say, for example, have one name on a dealer's license, a different name for the Secretary of State, and a different name on a sign. So you have to make sure it matches all your paperwork that you filed in Austin as well. Here's something I really want every dealer to be aware of. Once you get your license, you are going to have some responsibility. You must be open at least 4 days a week for 4 consecutive hours per day. Okay. Now, if you're a wholesale dealer, you have to be open at least 2 days per week for at least 2 consecutive hours a day. You are going to have to post your hours, because the state wants your customers to know when you're accessible. Maybe they got questions about a vehicle that they have purchased from you, or maybe they got questions about a vehicle they're interested in purchasing from you. You have to be accessible. That's why you have to have your hours posted. So do please keep that in mind. And, you have to staff the building during those posted hours. You got to be staffed by either an owner or a bona fide employee. If you're not able to staff that dealership during some emergency or something like that, you do have to post a sign that states the date and time that you're going to return. Now, you're not going to have to notify the state, but they want your phone to be answered between 8 and 5, regardless of your business hours. So once again, the state just wants to make sure that you are accessible to your customers, whether they've got questions about a vehicle they want to purchase, or more importantly, whether they've got questions or issues about a vehicle they've already purchased. This is a law. You got to be bonded. Now, you have to get a $50,000 dealer surety bond. Is that going to cost you $50,000? Absolutely not. It's based on your credit score. So with good credit, you should be able to get a $50,000 bond for about $250 to maybe $350 a year. If you do have a couple of blemishes on your credit score, that price can go up substantially. So this just ensures that you're going to operate with a high level of ethical standards. And in your dealer training course, we have a very large section about how to operate ethically. I mean, it's pretty much common sense stuff, but we have a huge section on ethics. One of the best bits of advice I'm going to give you here is just, operate with the highest level of ethical standards and integrity. And you're going to have this dealer's license in the state of Texas for many, many years. There's a wealth of opportunity in this license for you. And there's a lot of money to be made out there if you're willing to just operate ethically and follow a few simple sets of rules and guidelines. So you can get $50,000 dealer surety bond from an insurance company or bonding agent. If you go to Google or whatever your favorite search engine is, just type in Texas Dealer Surety Bond. You're going to see a bunch of companies there that want your business. And I always recommend getting at least a couple of quotes because there is a pretty big variety of policy pricing. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, in your dealer training course, I'm going to show you how to register with the Secretary of State or maybe the county. Many businesses are going to register with the Secretary of State. Now, not only is the Texas Secretary of State the state's leading election authority, but they're also the leading recorder of business entities, and they want to have a record of this business that you're going to be starting here pretty soon. So, with that being said, most, sole proprietors and general partnerships are excluded. However, sole proprietors and general partnerships must file what's called an assumed name certificate in any county they operate in if they're using a name other than a proper name. Let me explain this. Let's say you're a sole proprietor and you're in Harris County, and let's just say, for example, you're calling your business Sally Doe, and that's what you're calling the business. You're operating under your proper name. Sally Doe, as a sole proprietor, does not have to register with Harris County. However, if you're Sally Doe Motors, that's not your proper name that you're operating under. Even if you're sole proprietor, at that time you would have to register with Harris County or whatever other county that you're in. So in a nutshell, if you are a sole proprietor or general partnership, then you're probably going to be registering with your county, but most other dealers are probably going to be registering with the Secretary of State. If you have any questions on that, 515-463-5555 that you can see right there. That's the Secretary of State Corporations and Commercial section. You can also send them an email, corpinfo@sos.texas.gov. And we're going to cover that extensively in your dealer training course. We're also going to cover this process right here. I'm going to show you exactly how to register with the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner if you're going to be offering any type of financing, which is very easy to do. If you have any questions on that, you can call them directly, 512-936-7600. And once you get your license, you're going to document everything that comes across your desk. If you think that you're going to be able to run your new business without a scanner or copy machine, unfortunately, you're wrong, okay? What you're going to have to do is make a copy of absolutely every single document that comes across your desk. And you're going to need to make sure and keep all records a minimum of 48 months, okay? So we'll talk about that extensively. Very, very, very easy to maintain records with your new dealership. And I'm going to show you that in your course. You're also going to submit and hang on to this. This is your I-9 employment eligibility form. We'll talk about that in the course. This is a simple, you're going to go to this website here and complete this form and just store it in your records. You don't have to submit it or anything. This just shows that you are legally able to work in the United States. Most dealers are going to need what's called an employer identification number. Okay, and this takes probably 2 minutes online. And this is the number that's used to identify the new business that you're starting. And it's only going to be needed for tax purposes. The only business that does not need an employer identification number would be a sole proprietor with no employees. So if you're a sole proprietor with no employees, you're not going to need this. But if the sole proprietor has employees, then you are going to have to get an employer identification number. So most dealers will be required to obtain an employer identification number. And I'm going to show you how to do that online during your dealer training course. There are companies, like I said earlier, they'll charge you $600 to get your employer identification number. Well, I'm going to show you in your dealer training course exactly how to do that for free. Now, I know some of these steps, it might seem like a long list of steps that you have to complete before you're able to actually apply for your Texas dealer's license, but some of them take a few moments online. The most extensive part, I believe, anymore is this right here. So a 6-hour web-based training course is going to be required for most dealers that are applying for the license for the first time, okay? Now, the 6-hour training course, you're going to be able to take this online. If you've never taken a dealer training course online, what you're going to be able to do is basically go to texasdealers.com. You can click that big blue Enroll Now button. You'll pay the $149 and type in your name, and then you're going to be able to create a username and password and just start taking that course. So make sure you're using Google Chrome. And what's going to happen here, when you're using Google Chrome, it's going to track your progress. So if you want to watch all 6 hours today, you can certainly do that. And once you've done that, your certificate of completion will automatically just pop up on your screen. You'll need to save that on your computer, because when you're applying for your dealer's license, this will show the state that you have actually completed your mandatory training. Okay, so dealers that are licensed to buy used cars, trucks, motorhomes, neighborhood electric vehicles, recreational off-highway vehicles, all-terrain vehicles, those are going to be required to take that course. Okay, and also there's another requirement: the dealer was licensed more than 10 years on September of 2019, then they were exempt from that. But if a dealer was licensed for less than 10 years as of September 1st of 2019, then they had to take the renewal course. So this should not apply to you. Once you get your license, once you've taken the training, you don't take any more training. It's a one-time requirement. And that certificate that you take, that you download, hang on to it for as long as you can, because it's good forever. Whether you want to apply next week, next month, 10 years from now, it will never expire. And there's no continuing education. So I mentioned that renewal training. That's only for somebody that had a license less than 10 years in the past. So if you're taking this license, the 6-hour pre-license course for the first time, then you'll never take another training course in the future. And please, I always recommend, please take a look at the reviews. Go to texasdealers.com, click on the reviews, and look at all the other entrepreneurs that have been satisfied with that training, that have learned a lot. It's an educational experience. And once you take that training, you're going to be prepared not only to apply for your dealer's license, but you're going to be able to run this new business. And this is a phenomenal business that you're getting ready to start here. I, like many other dealers, I procrastinated for years and years. And, I finally decided to go for it. And when I got my dealer's license, I wished that I had basically gotten my license many, many years before that, so I procrastinated. And, I know maybe you're procrastinating. Maybe you haven't found a location. There are locations out there. You just have to go find one. You just have to make sure that you meet local zoning. And, I tell you what, I'll just kind of give you a little bit of information. When I was very, very active buying and selling vehicles, I got to the point, and I started with motorcycles. I did some SUVs for a while. And then for the longest time, I specialized in lease returns. And when I say specialized, I would literally go to the dealer auction and I would stand in the lease return lane. Now, you're probably aware of this, but when a vehicle comes off lease, a 2 or 3 year lease, they're going to go through the dealer auction lane. So one day you might have GMAC, which is all the brand new, well, not brand new, the 2 or 3 year old GMs and Chevrolets and things like that. Then you might have Toyota Credit one lane over, where you're literally watching all the 2 and 3 year old Toyotas coming through those lanes. You can bid on those. Or maybe you've got Ford Credit on that other lane where you got the 2 and 3 year old Fords. So what I did, my niche, whatever you want to call that, for a while, was doing the 2 and 3 year old lease returns for like Toyotas and Hondas. And I never had a lot of mechanical ability. And what I found, is great is Chevys and everything like that. I had a little bit less mechanical problems with a 2 and 3 year old Toyota than I did, a Yugo or something like that. So with that being said, I was standing in that lane, and normally I was buying vehicles at that time about in the $9,000 to $11,000 range. So if I got a vehicle for $9,000, I'd always mark everything up about $3,000 to $4,000, and I'd price everything with nines. So if I bought a vehicle at the auction for $9,000, I would maybe mark it up to $12,995. Because nines are a really great thing in our industry. So you certainly want to be aware of that. So I take it back to the line, and and there are times you will have customers, especially here recently, that'll come in and give you the full asking price without even negotiating. So that's something you keep in mind. It's amazing how many folks will come in and buy a vehicle from you without negotiating, and they'll pay your full list price. But that's not the norm. So normally, let's say I bought that vehicle for $9,000 and had it marked up to $12,995. Well, I might have had somebody that came in and said, well, hey, I'll give you $6,000 for it. You know what I never did was give a low offer, not any consideration. What I mean here, if somebody gives you a real low ball offer, hey, they're expecting you to counter. So what I would say, or say, give me some crazy 50% offer, I'd say, hey, let's go in there and take a look at it, instead of saying, get the heck off my lot, you're wasting my time. Don't ever say that. You need to, when someone has given you an offer, they're showing buying signs and they're expecting you to counter. So if somebody came into my office and said, hey, listen, I'll give you, you're asking $12,900 for that, I'll give you $6,000. Will you take $6,000? Well, let's see what we got into it. And I'll go in there and basically start doing some numbers. I'll turn around. I'll say, well, looks like I can come down to $12,250, $12,250. And so I counted them. And what the first thing they're going to do is they're going to take that 50% offer, and they're probably going to bring it up to about 80 to 85%. So maybe they come back at an offer of, well, hey, I'll give you $11,000. They're kind of testing your waters and seeing what you're willing to do. So at that time, you start lowering your increments. So that first, you had the vehicle listed at $12,900, you came down to $12,200 or whatever, and then your next increment is probably going to be around the $11,900 to $12,000 range. So you lower your counters, okay, making them smaller. That shows the customer that you are basically very close to what you're going to do. So, just say, for example, you got a customer that came in and offered you $6,000 on a vehicle you got listed at $12,995. Well, maybe you can get that negotiated down to where maybe you sell it for $12,000. Maybe you sold it for $11,500. Think about this. you came $1,500 off of your list price. That's a really big price drop that you just completed there. But if you bought the vehicle for $9,000 at the auction, I will sell that for $11,500. Absolutely, there's a $2,500 markup. I normally try to. I was more happy with making $3,000 to $3,500 on those, but other times there are times that maybe I made $1,000 on a vehicle, and I was never happy about that. But I always really try to shoot for the top dollar in profit and be willing to negotiate with customers. I was a big. I would run ads saying, "Come on in, let's deal." Let's deal. And let that customer know I'm willing to negotiate. So what I'm getting at here, you want to make sure that if somebody comes in and gives you a low ball 50% asking price offer, don't tell them to get the heck off your lot. Take them into your office and say, well, let's see what we got into that, because they're expecting you to counter. They're not expecting to buy that for 50%. They know no dealer is going to sell a vehicle for half the price. They know that. There's not a customer out there that thinks that, but they'll come in and test your waters and ask you that. So definitely don't sign off any offer. Okay, definitely mark those vehicles up, and I think you're probably getting this license to make as much money as you can. But in your dealer training course, we're going to cover the law, we're going to cover the paperwork. It takes 6 hours. I'm the instructor, so you will have to put up with me about 6 hours online to get through that course. And once you have finished that course, I'm pretty confident that you're going to be ready not only to start your Texas dealership, but you're going to be able to apply correctly and get into this incredible business. And I do believe this business is going to change your life. I really have no doubt about that. And I've heard stories from so many folks that I've trained that have told me about the increase of their of their quality of life, with this great business. So this is a great business, not only to start at any time in your life. This is a great business to start as your first business, because, as you saw there, I showed you a little bit earlier, I'm going to give you all that contact information with the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. And they are wonderful in Austin as far as supporting dealers. They were going to answer every single question. They'll try and answer that phone. You might be on hold for a little bit, but this is a great business, because think about what other business can you ever start where you actually have unlimited technical support from any state agency. So, hey, with that being said, if you are watching this repeat of the live stream, my name is Dallas Johnson. I'm the lead instructor of the Automobile Dealer Training Association, and we are approved by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles to provide your pre-license training. And it is a 6-hour course you've got to take online. The law is very clear. I get a call once in a while that says, hey, do you give any in-class trainings, because I'm not comfortable doing this online? The law is very clear at this time. You cannot take this training in class. You've got to take it online. Okay, so the law is very clear on that. You got to take that training class online. And if you've never taken a dealer training class, it's just like watching the video that you're watching right now. You go to texasdealers.com, click on the big blue enroll button. You pay your $149 tuition, put your name and address in there, and then you'll create a username and password. And a couple of minutes later, you'll be watching it'll be me and you doing 6 hours of training together. And please read our reviews. I really want to encourage you to please go to texasdealers.com. Once again, that's texasdealers.com. And I'm going to hopefully help you change your life. And so anyway, when you're ready to make that move, when you are ready to take your income to a whole new level, go to texasdealers.com and click on that big blue enroll button. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you, whether you're watching this live stream right now, or maybe you are watching the replay. I want to wish you the very best of luck in your new business. And I would really, really appreciate you considering the Automobile Dealer Training Association as your Texas dealer license training partner. So when you're ready to go for it, go to texasdealers.com and click on the big blue enroll now button. And thank you again. Once again, I want to wish you the very best of luck with the operation of your new business. Thank you very much.